All of the worst horror stories of socialism involve one person imagining they can design things from the top down, using science to determine where people work and what they produce. This was explicitly the goal of Pol Pot, who studied Marx with the top socialist professors in Paris. Given the opportunity, he tried to put Marx's theories into practice. Pol Pot dreamed of an idyllic agrarian society, but he knew the people would not comply voluntarily. His army, the Khmer Rouge, forced Cambodians living in the urban centers into the countryside. Bankers and businessmen, Chinese and other foreign immigrants were summarily executed to ensure that this noble experiment was pure in blood and soil. Those who survived this forced march to the farmlands were expected to grow food, but factory workers didn't know much about how to be farmers, and the resulting food shortage was cataclysmic. Socialism in practice transformed the Cambodian economy under Pol Pot into a brutally efficient killing machine, snuffing out 1 in 4 lives in less than 4 years. Before Pol Pot, Mao Zedong had a similar plan to impose a reboot on the Chinese economy, but his plan was to transform a farming economy into an industrial powerhouse. Farming peasants would be transformed into steel workers, and China would finally match the United States in industrial production. Mao's Great Leap was a spectacular failure, but he did succeed in diverting resources and labor from the production of food. Tens of millions of people starved to death. The Soviet Union collapsed in part due to its inability to plan without prices. And today we see poverty and death in countries like Venezuela and North Korea, where arrogant leaders have tried to impose their own wills onto whole countries with catastrophic results. In 2015, an artist resolved to create a print version of Wikipedia to find out just how big it really was. Although the project was never completed, the answer turned out to be very big. All of the articles of Wikipedia, not counting pictures, would have filled 7,473 volumes of 700 pages each. To read the whole thing, you would need to devour 143 pages a day, every day, for 100 years. When you consider that most Wikipedia articles are relatively short summaries of their subject, and that they don't include the personal knowledge we all have, the scope of human knowledge is truly amazing, and it's growing all the time. Wikipedia itself is an example of how the decentralized knowledge of many people from all over the world can come together. It has created something that would have been utterly impossible for a panel of experts to curate. It's decentralization at its best, and it's increasingly how the best parts of our society work.
You remember the early days of Wikipedia, people were so incredulous. They thought, well, this could never work. I remember seeing late night comedians make fun of it. Oh, an online encyclopedia that anyone can edit, that's really going to be trustworthy, right? They made fun of it. Right. It just seemed like it could never work. It did. And you know, the guy who invented Wikipedia was the pioneer, was Jimmy Wells. He got the idea from reading F.A. Hayek, who saw and spent his life devoted to this difficult, almost mysterious, sometimes even magical observation that order comes about through liberty and not through imposition. That was his theme, and it's a hard thing to learn, that the more you let go, the better things work.
We've seen that top-down control fails because those at the top can never have enough knowledge to coordinate the activities of millions of people, not even with all the supercomputers in the world. And even when they try, the results have been some of the worst cases of human suffering in history. The only other option is to let people plan their own lives, as long as they don't hurt people or take their stuff. Trust that these individual plans will come together into a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts, and that none of us knows as much as all of us.